Morning, Truth Bombers. Today is, what is it, May 13th? It's a good day for that. And we're going to get ready for some Truth Bomb. But first, I'm Jay Scott, a.k.a. Crypto Cowboy, along with.
I'm Sandy, and I am the Freedom Faith Warrior.
And
There
we're
you
going to
are.
get it on with some Truth Bomb.
All right.
Maybe. All right.
Hey, good morning. Hey, mugs
Good
up,
morning.
everyone. Mugs up.
Mugs up.
You got coffee today? You got
Yep.
coffee or cafe or tea or something? If you do, say hello in the comments. We would love for you to say hello. I hope you've joined us today on talking about a couple news topics to talk about. Just to
Yep. We're gonna let the truth fly, whether it's true or not. we,
try.
we're gonna
Try.
try. Yep. We're
I'm gonna
gonna talk.
try on the
Yeah.
truth today.
I've got an interesting topic today that is some lawyers are taking on big government to reel in some of these government agencies that, without being voted into office, are controlling a lot of our lives today with a lot of bureaucracy. And what are you going to talk about today?
I'm gonna talk about school curriculums. How in the world did we get a school curriculum? How is it made? How was it established? We're gonna start from the beginning, and then we're gonna talk about today. And we're gonna talk about how the Constitution kind of plays into it or does not play into it. And we're going to talk about who has jurisdiction over it. So it's kind of similar
Yeah. Well,
to
that's
what
good. We're going to go to
we're talking
school,
about.
and like they do in school, we're going to start at the beginning. We're going to start with basic arithmetic, which I
Basic
never really got. I flunked that part. That was always my problem.
arithmetic.
Yeah, it's like my times tables. Once you miss those, baby, then trigonometry does not feel
Oh,
good.
yeah. Mine was
But
fractions. Hated fractions.
yeah,
Fractions just killed me. And then we went into algebra and forget about it. Forget
forget
about it.
about it. That's
Yeah.
what I
I,
say.
I,
Yeah.
I took consumer math in high school just because I did not want to take the next step of algebra.
Mm.
I did
See, now
not want to
consumer
take
math
trigonometry.
makes sense.
Mhm.
It's like the math that you would need to like go to the grocery store and
That's exactly.
make a budget and that kind of stuff, right?
Exactly. I was able to take, I took, I am so proud of myself. I took all the right courses in high school.
You did. I was
I
thinking
took
you had a really good high
typing,
school.
I took persuasion and propaganda, I took, consumer math, I took history. I really liked history at the time.
Well, good job on.
And then my gym was ping pong,
Oh, good call on that.
table tennis, loved it, volleyball. Okay. And then
This was
archery.
in this was in
So
St.
how about
Louis.
that?
Good on St.
Yeah.
Louis, right? Well,
Good
good
on
on
St.
St.
Louis.
Louis.
Go Kirkwood High School. Yeah. Go Kirkwood High. The Pioneers.
Well,
They're called the
let's.
Pioneers. How about that?
How about
Anyway,
that?
how about
That's
that?
that fits right in here. Well, let's talk about. Let's go ahead and have you start.
Oh,
Let's
we're
go.
going to talk about school. Well, since we're talking about school. So
Yeah, let's
I
just
was
hop in.
afforded a great education. But you know who funded my school the most? You're going to be shocked.
The
Not really,
government,
because I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. What do you think of when you hear St. Louis, Missouri?
the spirit of St. Louis. I don't know the
Okay, that's
arch.
good. Okay.
Um, I don't know what else.
Okay. Any commercial you've ever heard that has St. Louis, Missouri in it, what was it an advertisement for? Hello? Anybody out there? Come on.
I don't know
In the
who. Anybody
comments.
help us out.
Anybody. I'll wait. No, I'm just kidding. I won't. But the answer is my whole school education was funded by Anheuser-Busch, St.
Oh
Louis,
yeah,
Missouri.
that's right.
Anheuser-Busch funded my whole education, and I'll tell you why I know this. Because we got to go see the Nutcracker and the symphony every year, and they would say, this was funded by Anheuser-Busch. Exactly. Thank you, Tim. He knew the answer. Go, Tim. Woohoo. So my education was funded by your beer drinking. So there you are.
Hey,
So
it's good. That's good old capitalism right there. Nothing wrong with that.
there you go. Okay, so exactly. Ooh, I'm really fuzzy. Anyway, um, it's okay. I can be
You'll be
fuzzy
back.
and still
You'll be
talk.
back.
It's okay. It's all right. So anyway, my school education I know was funded by Anheuser-Busch because we were told so all the time. Now, isn't that amazing? You know, you would think it was the federal government, right? Like you'd be
Yeah.
like, isn't your school curriculum funded by the federal government? See, I didn't even think I was going to go in this direction, but funny how I started it. Uh, but honestly, I know that Anheuser-Busch's contributions to our state economy and taxes is what helped to fund my local St. Louis education. So we were given and afforded a lot of programs around Forest Park, which Forest Park is a big park in St. Louis, which was funded by who? Hmm,
The
probably by
Forest
Anheuser-Busch.
Service.
So, no, Forest Park is named after somebody named Forrest. But anyhow, we were all of the museums in my area were free to go to. Like all the school children got to go to the art museum, the symphony, you know, all of the local arts because of this one corporation. I mean, that's pretty amazing.
That is. Can I just interject one thing? I didn't plan to say this, but this is a topic I've been thinking about a lot. And this basically what you're saying is that corporations have to pay property tax on their properties. They have to pay, I don't know what it is, like a corporate tax to the local community, right? States have
State
the
tax.
tax,
That's the
the
state
state
tax.
taxes, and property tax. So
Right.
to me, that's the kind of tax that I want to champion because that means that taxes are going locally and they can affect us directly. I'm not so keen on federal taxes where I don't know what the hell they're going to spend their money on. And I don't have quite that much of a say. I mean, they can say I can vote, but still, federal taxes are, they feel like they're out of my control and like crazy
Mm-hmm.
government is spending this. And the reason I'm bringing this up is going to allude to something that I'm going to be talking about later. And that is property ownership, people, is the way to go. If you're looking to free yourself from the burdens of government and from and from outsiders, it's like
Yes.
business taxes and property taxes, ownership. The taxes go
Yes.
to your local governments where you have much more control. So
If you
there
pay
are,
taxes, because there's loopholes to paying those taxes, by the way.
well, for
By the
federal
way.
taxes. So this is what I wanted to talk about. I just want to briefly touch on this because I
Okay. Yeah.
literally have been talking about reading about this, and that is that what rich people do is they basically own property and they own businesses and they
Mm-hmm.
funnel all of their income through their businesses so that they don't
Right.
personally
Their
have
business
income.
owns the property, not
Their
them.
business, right. And so then they don't pay federal taxes because
Correct.
you can take the income from your property and you can deduct that from your income.
Yes.
Therefore, they always have enough properties to offset their income. So they're not
That's
paying
why you
federal
make yourself a
taxes.
personal trust. Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's right. They're not paying property taxes. They're paying property taxes. They're paying taxes. It's not like the rich people are totally getting off. It's just they're doing it what I consider now the smarter way. And I've just really been learning this. So when you brought
Okay.
this up about the corporation funding your school system, I champion that. And it's like, you know, that makes perfect sense. Why not?
Okay.
And
But
how
there's a
you
positive to
benefited.
that and there's a negative to that.
All right, well let's hear let's is yeah.
But I'm not going to go into the negative of that because
Okay,
I
good.
had a positive experience in my education
Yeah.
because
I
of
mean
that,
there's
right?
positives and negatives to
And
each side of this, but
you know, one of my family
but
members drank enough of the stuff to to
Well,
help
yeah,
fund me.
that's
So
true.
anyway,
So that could be the negative of that. And it's just like, here in Montana,
correct.
we have legalized marijuana. So they pay a lot, those marijuana shops pay a lot of property taxes. So they're probably funding schooling systems now.
Well,
So yeah.
somebody in my household funded it, refrigerator in the garage where a keg was delivered every week. So there you are.
Yeah.
So you just don't
All
know.
right. So we sort of digressed. I don't know,
Don't know.
not totally,
I
but
digress. So, okay.
let's keep going.
So we're talking about school curriculum. First question, who is in control of school curriculums? Who do you think?
Yeah. Who do you think? Well, first
Who
of
do
all,
you
in
think?
control. Well, I would think like the
Who do you think?
Secretary of Education or something like that would
Well, I'm
would
gonna
have
I'm gonna
some
give you the
control.
answer, which is legally speaking, the state and school districts have the authority to create curriculum for K to 12 schools. Elected officials, such as school board members, are understandably influenced by their constituents, parents, while teachers, administrators, and other interest groups work to exert their own control.
Mm. Interest groups.
Oh, interest groups.
Interest
Who
groups.
could they be? We don't know. Now get this. Who is writing the curriculums? What degree do you need to write a curriculum? To end, a bachelor's degree is generally required and a master's degree or above is a plus. Not needed though. Doesn't always need to be. If you are writing K to 12 for businesses, you most likely don't need to be a professor to create curriculum. You don't
I
even
didn't.
have to be a professor.
I was a corporate curriculum. They call us the technical writers or something like that. But
Right. Right.
I didn't have a degree, but I worked for a corporation. That's what I did.
People who write curriculum for college students are generally expected to have a doctoral degree. They have to be generally a doctorate. Okay. So here's the thing that I found, which was really interesting. Is school curriculum federal? Nope. State and local influence. There are no national standards for education, but local school boards and the State Board of Education set the standards for their jurisdictions. So each state's Department of Education creates a curriculum framework. This framework gives teachers and schools a picture of what to teach. So if you think about your local governances, okay, your state governances, it really does matter if you're a red or blue state on what's going to be taught in the curriculum. If you think about this, okay,
Yeah.
so I always, me, I always want to go 3 steps further, right? I don't want to go 1, 2, 3. We want to go 3 steps further. So we're starting at the teacher level. A teacher can actually create their own curriculum in their classroom.
Mm.
They are allowed to because they have a bachelor's degree.
Oh
All they have
wow.
to do is submit it to their principal
Okay.
and they can teach what they want in their classroom. Did you know that?
No, that's a little scary. There's that probably cuts both ways too. If you got to really if you agree with that teacher's perspective on life, maybe you'll like that. Maybe you won't. It does seem like there should
Correct.
be a little more,
You
I don't
think
know,
that there's more
organization.
governance in it and there isn't. And get this. So people can actually not even be in the public school education system and be writing curriculum for your children. Okay? They get paid for it. They can get paid up to $85,000 to write a curriculum if they just
Wow.
submit it. Yeah.
I didn't know I could have done that. I mean, I have a bachelor's. I have a bachelor's degree. I don't know.
Scott's like, I could have another career right here.
Right, right.
Okay. Now, the 10th Amendment on the Constitution reserves the power to govern education to the states, allowing them to set their policies and regulations. But they don't. Like the 10th Amendment says they can oversee it, okay, if they need to. But they don't. They really do, defer to the local state governances, okay?
Okay.
Now, how are books chosen for the school curriculum? Literature used in a school is determined by the district. Each district should have a selection policy that explains the procedure it uses for selecting literature. Now, this is why it becomes very important for parents to attend your local PTA meeting and your school board meetings. It's so important for you to attend those so that you can make a statement on if you're for it or against it. Okay. So that's where the school board meetings and PTA meetings. That's why it's important for you to be involved in your school, your children's education. So if we know that just anybody can write a curriculum and get paid for it, and that your local school can just adopt it, or your one teacher who's teaching in that school can write their own curriculum, that's scary. And
Yeah.
it makes you understand what's happening right now and how people go, how did our kids get so indoctrinated? This is how it happened. This is how it happened on getting indoctrinated with whatever. And politics were never supposed to be part of this, by the way, because the originator of the school system, is Horace Mann. I don't know if you've heard his name before.
Are you sharing?
Um,
Should we?
huh?
Don't
Yeah,
you want?
I'm
Are
gonna
we?
show. I'm gonna show the.
Hmm.
Hold on one
You just let me
second.
know when you want to.
Share screen. Here we go. Horace Mann. Here he is. So our curriculum, our school system was. He's got my birthday, but anyway,
Yeah.
I digress. He has my birthday, but um, he is the one that wanted a school system. And you can go read this for yourself. I'm not going to sit here and break it down for you on who he was, what his career was. I mean, if you look at, he was in office after he created the school system, I guess you'd say. He was, look at who he was preceded by. John Quincy Adams. He was a part of the U.S. House of Representatives in Massachusetts. He took over John Quincy Adams' place when John Quincy Adams died. But I mean, this matters. So I think and I just want you guys to go Wikipedia him. I looked at it. A lot of the facts are true because, Wikipedia also can be, you know, not true sometimes. But you will see that what he wanted was everyone, no matter their stature, because if you recall, in education, did you stop sharing? I guess you did.
Yeah.
Um, in education, it was primarily for private schools. Most children of affluent families were the ones that were getting the schooling, not the children. You know, I think of Little House on the Prairie. You
Hmm.
know, like their little schoolroom. That was really the basis of a lot of that show. If you think about it, was the
Right.
schoolroom. But I mean, it really depended who you were, where you were, and what your stature was on if you got an education or not. Because a lot of those kids out in the prairie, they had to work. They were farm hands. They had to work on their farm to help their family survive. So, it was a whole different story. So it wasn't equal. Like the education system definitely wasn't equal because you had that. So he was trying to help to get those kids an education. He was trying to help, to introduce that everybody could go. It would be equal. Um, so I mean, there's a lot to it actually. If you actually look into it, so that's our problem. First of all, is we never research things. Like people just take the system as the system, and they never research as to why it's even in place, and how it runs, who operates it, and what system is in governance over it.
No, I think this is
So
why social media is so bad because not only do we not have the propensity to research, but if we see something on social media, we kind of take
right,
that as our research. It and
and
it,
that,
it it's the worst part of it because at least
right,
before social media, you had the internet. You'd have to go on a blog. Maybe there'd be an article that somebody at least taken the time to write out. Now it's just social media. Everybody links to everything or whatever. It's like
right,
it is really perpetuated to dumb down our society.
right. So I that is a great segue into what I want to share now. There's another guy that wrote, you know,
I'm having
wrote
problems
an
sharing your
article.
screen, so they're not going to be able
Okay.
to see. So you
They
can talk
can't.
about it. No,
Okay, hold on. All right, hold on. Let me see if I can do it again.
no, I don't think it's your side. I don't know for some reason. Okay, let me go ahead and try it again. Let's
Okay, I
see.
did.
Let's try it again.
There
Okay,
we
that
go.
worked. That worked.
Okay, so there's an article. One man created the education system holding you back. Okay, now this guy wrote this in 2017. I don't know who he is, and I'm sorry if it's your article, sir, but you definitely had your own agenda and into why you wrote this. Like he didn't write it out of facts. He wrote it out of it's getting harder and harder to make a living. Many of us are having trouble competing, in knowledge. Um, and he's blaming it on the guy who created the education system. Okay, so
Right.
and then of course a chapter in the Skeptic's Guide to American History. So there we are. So this guy, his whole agenda is, um, look at this. He mentions him, and he says, credited with creating the foundation of our modern public education, saw that the industrializing world demanded different skills than its agricultural production. This was especially true, um, and was at least to democratize the economic and political represent. And he goes on to say, um, if you could compete, you would be hired for a job. So what he was trying to do is he was trying to align this guy with the industrial revolution at the time. That he just
Hmm.
wanted them to make them into um, workers. And he
Right.
and so man saw it as an opportunity to form unbreakable habits. So he's trying to say that the whole reason the guy did this was to create workers,
Right.
habit,
Like
faithfulness,
drones.
yeah,
Basically
see
mindless
this is
drones.
see
Yeah.
yeah, look at what he
Right.
wrote this,
I like
okay?
that. You just churn them
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Um,
So that's the only point I wanted to make is that you can, let's see, stop sharing. So
hold on.
here's the thing. We can do, you know, um I stopped sharing, so I don't know what happened. I can't see
There we
you.
go.
There you are. Okay. So that guy wrote that article because he was mad that they can't get jobs, from the education system. So he's blaming the originator that it was the industrial revolution that created it. Now, the timelines are off for that because when Horseman did this, the timelines are off. Like he
Right.
didn't have the right facts. So you can go out there right now and just write an article on what you think and throw the guy who originated his name in there, et cetera, et cetera. So if I read correctly for Horace Mann, he was trying to do something good, but with anything in a structure that is out of your control, once you create the structure and you send it out, then it's out of your control. Like he can't control. He was in Massachusetts. He can't control what's happening in California at that point in the
He should
education
come out
system.
of the grave. It's like, if you don't do this right, I'm going to come out of the grave and
Right.
come get you. Yeah, things get perverted over time. That's for sure.
Well, so get this now. I googled this, and Google's 50% as
Right.
real. But anyway, why is education not a constitutional right? There's not a single mention of education in the U.S. Constitution. The establishment of education is one of the powers reserved to the states under the 10th Amendment. Education is not a constitutionally protected right.
Yeah.
That is an assertion made by the U.S. Supreme Court every time it's been challenged.
Interesting.
Right. It
But
is
it's
interesting.
up to the states, and that's
It's
what's
up to
interesting.
the
So
states.
even if they have a national curriculum, the state has to approve it, or they can do what they want with it, right?
Each school is in governance of
And
it.
each school can do it.
Right.
So yeah, it's interesting because I've heard this argument before that Horace Mann basically just created these little robots, and our kids don't know how to think anymore, and on and on and on. And
Right.
so yeah, this is a good example of uh, well, it's a couple examples. Example of that. You know, somebody or some organization, has an idea to improve things, and they put it forth, and then it over time it can get corrupted, or think of all
Absolutely.
of the ways that good, and I just thought about it. Most of the stuff we argue about, right, is at some point it made sense to a certain portion of people in a given situation, right? And I think that's what's so interesting about the polarization that we have today, is that people are so radically, opposed to somebody else's idea, and they use all these examples like, well, this is a horrible situation, and it either maybe have evolved into that, or, well, it's
Mhm.
horrible for you, but it still works for someone else. And it's like, that's what I always have, kind of just a fundamental idea. It's like, when we're arguing so much, it's like, it's just your opinion and what's happening in your life. That may be true in your life, but
Right.
it's not true in my life. Like, okay, I'm
Well,
going to
and
throw
I,
this out.
I mhm.
I was just going to say, like this is very controversial, but like abortion. I mean, for certain constituents, that is just like such a hardcore situation, and meaning that they like, how can you take this life? But for other people who really believe in the freedom, and they're like, how can you tell me what to do with my body? I mean, so both issues have sides. Israeli Palestinian war. Both sides have valid points and opinions, but when we start
Right.
to, get corrupted by either, like we did it to ourselves with social media. It's one of those super catch 22s that may have started off like a good idea, but I really think it has really harmed our society. But
Yeah.
then you also have perversions of people in power. We're kind of getting back to the freedom life theme. When you've got a narrative from people in power that want to push it onto all of us, that's where I
Hmm.
have a real problem.
Right.
So, you know,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know if
It,
that fits
it,
in
it
here.
really is. I apologize. I just realized I had the wrong. There we go. That's why you can't hear me. Okay.
We can hear you.
So, uh, so just to end the subject matter, you need to go back to the beginning. So what we have done is we are ignorant, and it's true, we are, because we just let people like that second article I told you. He's trying to twist it into, this is why there's a problem, is because not all of us can sit in a classroom for 8 hours a day because we have ADHD and we have the, I mean, which are true scenarios. Okay, can I just say that yes, the classroom training could be modified for people with, depending on their own situation, and they should be, and they should be. And I know because I was in uh, a career field that had a lot of children with disabilities, and they had agreements in the school system that they'd be taken out and be given separate uh, teaching, and had an aide, and there were all these different you know, agreements on how they would treat this one child. So they can do that now. So why he even said that, I'm like, well, they have that. They've had that in the system for a long time. I know, for 20 years plus.
Oh yeah.
So you can have a modification to your education even in the public school system. So it's really interesting. I saw, I don't know, again, social media, right? And it prompted me to buy this book, and I'm going to show it to you. Uh, it's called the Trivium. Now,
Hmm.
I don't agree with everything that's taught in it, okay, but that's just my own personal decision. But it's the classical liberal arts of grammar, logic, and rhetoric, okay?
Hmm.
And in private schools of the affluent back then, this is what they were taught. They were taught classical liberal arts of grammar, logic, and rhetoric. That's what they were taught. And then they added uh, numbers, geometry, music, cosmology. I mean, they then added other subject matters and literature. They were really into literature, of readings of many different books. So that's the other thing, is that the books that are introduced to our children, are, I don't know about you. There was a book that we read that we had to read, and do an essay on, which was 1984. We had to read that book.
Yeah.
Why? Why did we have to read that book? Why?
I'm glad you did, though.
Well, did you?
I don't recall, no. But
Anybody out there read 1984 in
I
high
wish I
school?
had.
Because it tells you something. Like, what were they trying to tell us? It was almost like a precursor to today's world. It's almost like a glimpse. Like they were like, "Hey, we want you to get familiar with how this goes because this is how it's going to go in the future, in the
This is how it's going to
dystopian
go. I think
future."
that should be required curriculum for our Freedom Life 3.0 curriculum because, we're going to create our own curriculum because we can. That'll be required reading. So if you want to know
1984.
what tyranny and oppression and narratives,
And there's many more.
yeah,
There's many
many
more
more.
books out there, but that one it is interesting to me. I mean, like I said, I lived in St. Louis. I lived in Missouri. So I don't know where you lived or whatever, but I have heard from other friends who did not live in Missouri that they had to read that book also. You need to
Yeah,
go, why? What was up with that book?
yeah. I wonder. I have to ask my kids. So my kids were schooled in Kansas, just down the road.
Uh-huh. Right.
So I'm curious. Now I got a good old Montana education, which I thought I think it was well rounded, but it wasn't very. I don't think it was very sophisticated. But
Did you have to read
and
Old Yeller?
uh, it's funny. I'm amazed at your memory. It's like I don't remember shit from high school. Sorry,
You don't remember anything?
I don't remember anything. I played basketball, football, and that's all I cared about. And I sang in a band, and
He was a
I tried
jock,
to
guys.
I
Yeah,
tried to get
he was a big
girls.
old jock.
That was all I really
You
cared
see,
about.
in my school, you were called a jock, a soc,
Yeah.
a burnout, or a prep. Those were our terms
Didn't you
for
have
all of our
the pot
social
smokers? What were the pot smokers?
burnouts.
Burnouts. Right. Yeah. We
The
had
burnouts,
our
man. The burnouts in the
burnouts,
smoking
man.
area, man.
I graduated to burnout in college, so
so
oh
so
my god.
yeah, we had all the different, you know, the socias were obviously the whatever, the popular
They were the
girls and
socialites.
guys.
Yes.
They were the ones that were cheerleaders and
Right.
pom pom girls and whatever. And it's funny, I wasn't in any of those groups. Can you believe it? Oh, yeah, I'm sure you can actually.
I think
I was
you were probably in
I
all of
was in
them.
all of them.
Yeah.
Yes.
A little bit
Except for
here,
the
a little bit
jocks.
there.
I was not a jock. I didn't want to be a jock.
Really?
I
You
never
weren't
thought,
a preppy little cheerleader? I think you could have been a little preppy little cheerleader.
never wanted it. Didn't like it. Nope.
Didn't like it. All right.
No, I told you I took ping pong and
Ah,
archery and volleyball
right.
and not all the other
Right.
things. I wasn't
Other
in track.
things.
I wasn't in whatever else there was.
Gotcha.
But it's so funny that education. I mean, think about that. Even though we weren't taught a curriculum in social communication, we put ourselves in each category. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
How we were categorized socially, by our interests. I mean, really, it's
Yeah.
just by our interests. It wasn't
Yeah.
about anything else because it wasn't because of who we were. Like me, I was never categorized because I fit in with all of them because I can talk to anybody and I can relate to anyone about
Yeah.
anything.
You don't like to
So,
be pigeonholed. Don't
no,
pigeonhole Sandy.
no.
Yeah.
A prep obviously was the intelligent ones. So the intelligent, they were the nerds too. Okay,
The
let's just
nerds.
be
Yeah.
honest, the nerds. But
Everybody's got
but
some nerds.
I did forget them, didn't I? Whoops, sorry. Because actually, they were my friends, the best. Because I liked hearing I even back then I liked to hear what they thought of things. I liked to hear their perspective on things.
You're
So
like,
that you're
tell me a
smart.
story. Tell me a story. We
You're
like
smart.
stories.
What do you think? Even back then, and the preps were the rich ones that weren't as smart. but they had the fashionable clothes.
They had the pop collars,
And
the
they
little
had the they had
gator.
the money. They had the money to fund them to Yale. You know what I'm saying?
Do you think that
They got tutored by the nerds to get
how
into
does
Yale.
so I have a question about that, but also how it pertains. How does local economies affect school system? Meaning that okay, here's my thing.
Oh
I
gosh,
when I moved to Kansas, my we landed in. It's funny because I didn't know anything about Kansas. We landed in probably the most affluent area in there
Overland
in
Park,
Kansas,
right?
and a school system was really good. It's one of the reasons we picked that. We just knew the
Or
school
Johnson
system
County.
looked really
Hmm.
good, right? And so our kids got a really good education. Now, since it was a high affluent area, I mean, I was on the low end of the totem pole, but I got in there, and my kids got a good education. At least a good because it was well funded because there was a lot of tax income, local tax income, because more people, had higher paying jobs. So I would assume but here's interesting, that there was money used in that school, and also they would individually, like parents could individually, donate or afford, the best coaches, the best this, that, best whatever. So not that money shouldn't really buy everything, and it seems a little unfair that the poorer counties may not have as much money to put into their curriculums or to their schools. But if if anybody can write curriculum, you'd think
Well,
though that you would be able to then fund, meaning pay people more money to go write these
well,
better curriculums.
it is Horace Mann's fault that the taxation was used because that is exactly what he wanted to do. He is the one that let's see. If you look at his Wikipedia, he is the one that wanted to use tax money to fund, each thing. And I don't think he was, when you have an idea and you don't think everything through. I'm sure he didn't think,
Yeah.
oh, well, then that means all the poor communities and this won't get as much funding because of the tax dollars. Like he probably wasn't thinking that. He was probably thinking federally on a federal mindset
Well, I
versus
thought
the
federally that they
localities.
had more, like, this surprises me. I thought the federal government had more control over the curriculum. Now, I know that they do have a curriculum that they can recommend, but I guess the states can override it,
Correct.
which is I think is good. I'm all for more power to the states.
Exactly.
Um,
Yes. But
but
that
one of
that's
your
that that's what matters in what county you are and what state you're in as to if your values and what lines up. It really does matter where you go. I mean,
do
it
you
does
have
it
a
does.
do you have a conclusion on good, bad, or indifferent about this?
Okay.
What do you think is it good or is it bad? In your opinion?
I think it's good for the person that can't, one, afford private school, two, doesn't have a parent that can stay home and do homeschooling for you and with you. Um, I think that it is good,
Now,
but
let me
again,
clarify. What is good?
I think it's good that there is a public system that offers education.
You mean? But I guess I'm hung up on the state versus the federal government controlling
No,
it.
I think it's good that it's state. Yes.
Okay.
I think it's good. I think it's good that it's state. However, like I was just saying, so that can make you a little more picky and to be able to research more on what counties align with you,
Right.
what with your
Right.
standards, what your, systems in place are. I think that it helps, but if you're from poverty, you don't have a choice in that, you know? And I think it's good to have education there. Now, I have quite a few friends that are teachers and some that are in urban, school systems. And it's gotten really difficult for them to teach because there's lots of disruptions in class. And there's lots of behavior issues. So it's harder in those places because right now you're not allowed there's so many things that you can't do now for discipline wise. You can't
Right.
even, I mean, They really can't do much.
So it almost doesn't matter what curriculum they have. They just have challenges of
They have a
teaching
challenge
because
of just getting
getting
through a
the
sentence without
right.
having a backlash of a student, yelling at them or even trying to hit them, that kind of thing.
So, so can I bring it back
So,
to Horace Mann for a minute and just ask? It seems like the issue here is that you've got Horace Mann who proposed a a federal type of education system that would kind of churn out the same curriculum for every student because at the time they were saying, look, we're transitioning from the agriculture to industrial, and we need to have this sort of modern curriculum that everybody gets, right? So that's how it was introduced back in
well, it was
what was it? The
introduced to have education fairly for all children.
spread out,
That's what
yeah.
it,
Basically,
yes. It
you're all
wasn't
going to
about
get
the
a good education.
industrial, yeah. The other guy is the one that wrote that it was about the industrial revolution, which it wasn't. He did
Okay.
not he didn't create it because of the industrial revolution.
Well,
He
okay.
created it so he wanted equitable, equal education for children.
Yeah. Okay. That is a
His heart
nicer
was
way to
for the
put it.
children. Yeah.
Yeah. I think though, I don't know,
Sorry.
as a businessman, like a capitalist, I do think it makes sense that, you need to educate the farmers, kids or whatever, on what it's going to take to live in the new society of in the industrial society. I think that's a good thing. The way that guy portrayed it is a bad thing. I don't think it's a bad thing at all. It's a good thing. It's
He
the
thought it
smart
was a
thing to.
bad thing because he
It's a
thought it
smart
was
thing.
it was it was making us, slaves to the system.
Again, it's just the way you look at it,
But
and
it
it's
but
also
in
how you
general,
perceive
I
that.
mean, that can be true. But if you've got a teacher that can create their own curriculum,
Right.
they
Which, in
can
your
they can
opinion, is good,
indoctrinate
right?
you in whatever their views are and how they see the world, their
So
perception.
I don't know. Maybe you're really good at this, Sandy. It's like you're our one of the things we do on Truth Bomb is that we don't give you the truth. We don't know the truth. But I like to throw out my opinion on this. I still haven't nailed you down, or at least I don't feel like I know. And maybe you're just not gonna give an opinion. But to me, is like, how do you see the current educational system? Good, bad, or indifferent? You
Broken.
know,
So broken.
and you think
So
that is
broken.
partly
And
because
it's
individual teachers
broken
can create their own curriculum.
because of they now have to be so PC that they're not allowed to say certain things in their classrooms, but yet if it aligns with a social PC agenda, they can create their own curriculum out of it and introduce it to their classroom. It's insane. It's insane that we are allowing social agendas, propaganda agendas, politic agendas to infiltrate into our school system with that teacher's own opinion.
Yeah.
I think that's insane. I think it's terrible and I don't agree with it at all. There needs to be more governance over that. And it's not. People are just swaying and giving into whatever the public opinion is versus truth. And that's where it goes wrong. Like facts and truth are no longer being taught.
So I
And
think we need the
because
states
they
to take
believe that
step
the
in.
facts and the truth are incorrect. So since somebody opposed the facts
Right.
and the truth of history, now they're throwing history out of the out, going, well, is that really what happened? And it's because somebody said, well, it's been written about in several different books in history that this was the truth of what happened. Well, yeah, but that was the perception of the authors. So
Yeah.
so again, it does come back to a perception of truth and exactly what the show is about, exactly what we were talking about. It's a truth bomb. What is the truth? What is the truth about it? What is the truth of history? Well, we have a lot of documented from all sides, all perceptions of what the truth was at the time of history. So that was the truth. Like, I mean, really, if you take 20 people that wrote books that said, yeah, this guy shot this guy and we won the war. That's the truth.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, how can you, and then for you to come back and go, well, that wasn't why they fought the war. They fought the war because of this. And then you're like, then you're down another rabbit hole, you know, and social media has done this. I mean, no doubt, you
Yeah.
know, anybody right now, you can say, this was the history of Horace Mann. And then I can go on TikTok and go take out some facts from his Wikipedia and go, this was Horace Mann. He created blah, 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 blah. And if I publish that, there will be at least 100 to 200, 400 people that oppose that truth, that will say, no, that's not what happened. He did it because of what that other guy wrote in his article about why. He did it to enslave us within the Industrial Revolution and blah, 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 blah. To indoctrinate us into being robots, for, the workplace, So, I mean, it's insane. It's insane what we're going through because of social media being an influence, you know. But it's really scary to think that all these years that you've been taught something from a teacher, that curriculum is not mandated, really. Not really. I mean, it's not really mandated or governed as much as you think it is. Now, I'm thankful for my persuasion and propaganda teacher, whoever that was back then. Gosh, I wish I had their name, because I could thank them and kiss their feet right now. Tell you that right now, because their persuasion and propaganda course taught me all I needed to know to live my life going forward.
Yeah, we should teach that and basic finance and
Consumer
to
math
everybody.
was another gem.
Yeah,
Typing, obviously, we need typing. Typing was amazing. So, I mean,
yeah.
I feel very blessed that I was given the right tools from high school.
Hey,
You know,
did you just give away a little bit too much there, like saying typing? Because isn't it called keyboarding now? Or
oh my
is it still
goodness.
called typing?
Well, back then we actually only had typewriters. Scott, I'm sorry to tell you, we're that old.
It's called
We're
keyboarding.
that old. No, we're that old to where it was typing because we only had typewriters. We had to
Okay,
put
just
in a piece of paper and we had to zip it and we had to go tick, 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 and then pull out the paper and show
wow.
it to our teacher.
All right, boomer. And you're a
I'm
youngster,
not a
actually.
boomer, I'm a
I know
Gen
you're not.
Xer.
You're an
I'm
Xer.
Gen X.
I'm actually on the edge. I'm right on the
I'm
edge.
a Gen X. Gen X rocks, man.
All right,
I'm Gen
rocker.
X.
All right, I'm gonna move
Loves
on. We're
it.
gonna move on to a similar topic about. Well, this is about government corruption. Um, Definitely. So let me share my screen here. Oh, my keyboard thingy's not working. Keyboard thingy.
His key, his
Keyboard
typing thingy. No,
thingy. My typing
his
thingy.
keyboard
All right,
thingy.
let's see if this will work. All right, there we go. All right, so these are there's some lawyers taking on this whole concept of bureaucracy and these agencies. We all get to vote, but the ability to make legislation is no longer in the hands of the people we elect. This guy named Philip Hamburger wrote this book, and is really
What's his name?
most of the Philip Hamburger.
Oh,
Hamburger.
okay.
Yeah, I looked him up. I started to read a little bit of his book, but it got a little too boring, Mr. Hamburger. But I liked
Hey,
his.
hey now. Poor
Hey
hamburger.
now. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about him. He started on. He targeted the NCLA. So that's I think that's where the company. Yeah, the New Civil Liberties Alliance uh, consists of a team of 27 lawyers. They got together to challenge to take lawsuits to the Supreme Court to challenge the authority that these administrations have. So it says that normally administrative power is understood as a separation of powers, but a civil liberties problem because it dilutes our voting rights. So we get to vote, but the ability to make legislation no longer is in the hands of the people that we elect, right? I mean, I found this really interesting because this is, I think, some of the systemic problem that we have is like when people say, oh, we can, if you have a problem with something, go vote. Well, that doesn't do much good because all the bureaucracy, we can vote for whoever, but people that are actually enforcing and moving how these laws affect us in our day to day life are these agencies. Let me skip through some of this stuff here. See, administrative law judges are considered part of the executive branch and not the judicial branch. These ALJs, which are these executives, where was LGA? They're appointed as heads of the executive agencies. This way, the administrative state not only has accumulated powers explicitly vested in these other branches, it is consolidated within itself the power of all three branches. So again, apparently they've taken some of these issues. So one of them, let me back up here. Sorry for scrolling so much. Is this vote, and we talked about it on a show here about Murphy versus Missouri, which was in front of the Supreme Court. It involves violations of the First Amendment rights,
Mm-hmm.
but from the Center of Disease Control. This is where the CDC was again an
Wow.
agency was shutting down. We're saying, hey, you can't talk about ivermectin, and that these doctors were saying ivermectin works really good, and literally the
Right.
CDC shut them down and put it onto their website that they could no longer use the words ivermectin, and if they did, they were in
Wow.
violation. And these doctors lost their job. A lot of these doctors that stood up to some of this narrative on the C-19
Yeah.
lost their jobs. So this
Yeah.
this this is what a case that this group took to the Supreme Court, and they
Though
won
the
this one.
CNN reporters are taking it right now, by the way. Anyway, I digress.
You digress. I like this quote. I think we are in the very important time for rethinking how our government should operate and restoring the separation of powers and the guardrails on agency power. So, yeah, separation of powers was key part in our Constitution and the way that our government was set up. And now through just time and bureaucracy, we've just given these agencies that again are not elected way more power to affect our lives. So I thought this was a really good article for what we stand for here. Again, what can we do? Well, about the only thing in this case is that we can know about organizations like this and Mr. Hamburger, who's fighting the good fight, to
Mm-hmm.
help us fight through some of this bureaucracy.
Go hamburger.
Go Hamburger, go Mr. Ham. Uh, so let me pop back to la, la. Okay, cool. So, anyways, yeah, I thought that was interesting. And again, I think we have to be informed. So again, we don't. I like to say this. I wish we had more time or more staff to actually do more research.
Right.
Because we've only got so much time. But what we're trying to do is maybe take a topic that maybe came up in social media or came up in the Main Street news and kind of look behind it and see what's going on. We're also, we're just attracted to, or at least I am. I know I'm attracted to stories that I see anywhere that talk about the government bureaucracy or the government, extracting more control over us. And I think that's, I don't know. I've leaned both ways. Like we've said before, I'm kind of come down to the middle on liberal versus conservative. I might lean a little more conservative, but it's sort of from a financial perspective of I want to control my money. I don't want the government to tell me. I also believe that the states should have more power. I don't want the federal government to tell me what to do in most cases. So I guess that's a more conservative view, but I view it as more of a libertarian view because the bottom line is I want my freedom. I don't want to be constrained on either side. And so anytime that I see that the government is extracting more control over me, then I'm going to want to rebel. And in this case, voting someone in or out of office doesn't really help. And it
Nope.
kind of goes to my personal theory
No.
of, I think a lot of our problems are even higher than government. And so spending a lot of time and effort trying to worry about who you're going to vote for or working on
Mm-hmm.
campaigns. I mean, it's good in the sense that at least you're trying something, but you know it's higher up. And when it's higher up, then it means it's even further away from us individually. If it's these elites, if these you know sort of above government. So whether you vote for Democrat or Republican, what's it going to really
Hmm.
matter when a lot of this is controlled above them with the powerful global communities like the WHO and even the United Nations now. There's just some stuff I'm seeing. I've seen some stuff. I'll have to probably talk about this in one of our next shows about the illegal migration coming in, and that the UN is really pushing a lot of this illegal migration up
Hmm.
through Mexico. They're actually bringing or pushing people from China and from all over the world up through Central America into Mexico, into the Mexico border, into America. And like, why are they doing that? Well, I mean, my opinion is it's a
Why?
destabilizing. They're trying to destabilize, America because
Exactly.
they want the power and the control globally. To them, it's all about we're going to globally, fix the world, and we're going to tell you what to do. And
Right.
yeah, so I just think we have to be vigilant, go beyond social media,
Yeah.
and come onto the show and let us know what you want to talk about. And
Yeah. Yeah. We'd like to have some guests. So if you are in the, in an arena where you can speak on a topic that could be a truth bomb, we would love to have you on. Please reach out to either one of us to vet you. Of course, we'll vet whoever we bring on. Make sure that there's no, you know, controversial stuff because we want to stay moderate. So we don't want you to be a radical of either side. We want you to speak truth to both sides.
yeah, and I think
Um,
that, yeah, we're looking for people that have taken some time to really dive deep into whatever their opinion or topic or whatever they're going to focus on. And we'll bring both sides on. Um,
Absolutely.
but if you are, yeah, if you're on the extreme edge and you're just going to be radical and you're not going to listen to the other side or at least have a good dialogue, yeah, then we're not going to
Right.
really entertain that. We want people that can look at both sides, but we know that everybody's got a focus, and we want people to come in with an
Correct.
expertise in a certain area and say, "Look,
Absolutely.
here's what I've done to look behind the headlines." Those are the kind of
Yeah.
people we want to talk to that have a good idea and
Yeah,
opinion,
because if
some
you're
facts.
just regurgitating mainstream media, that's not what we need. We definitely need some thinkers. We need some debaters, some people that really want to know the truth versus just receive what has been told to them, because that's not helpful. So
Yeah, and come in and blow up, truth bomb,
blow
like
up something.
what it what it
We
is.
can't say that. Sorry, sorry, sorry. Social media. No, we're not blowing anything up. We're just talking about, uh, you know,
We're just talking about
air.
topics.
We're
we're, just,
blowing up
we're
balloons.
we're just a bunch of hot air. That's all we are.
We're blowing up some balloons.
We're blowing up some balloons. Ah, okay. All
Sorry.
right. We're gonna
That's
end
gonna
on
have to be our new hashtag on this show.
blow up the balloons.
Blow up the balloons.
Nice, pretty little
So
balloons floating by. Okay, well, all right. On that truth bomb, we're gonna end it. All right,
we're gonna
people.
end it, but
Well,
I really want you all to go and to dive in, whatever topic it is. Go find out the originator or the
yeah,
origin of anything of this because that's where you're gonna find the answers. Ooh, possibly,
history. Yeah, history has.
possibly.
So I love this line. This is what we can end on this. History doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes. So
Ooh.
take it, take it. All right,
Yeah,
people. We'll
there
see you
you
next
go.
week.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, geez, my buttons.
His buttons.